So Fox's Dominion case, look, it keeps getting worse and worse. We just learned that Fox News actually settled with a Venezuelan businessman who was repeatedly defamed on Fox News. We don't know the exact dollar amount, but he almost certainly got paid millions of dollars because they, pushed him as part of this conspiracy theory. Well, now we also learn this. Bret Baier reportedly tried to air a special debunking election claims, but was ignored by Fox News executives. Wow. So look, there were always like a handful of people at Fox who were, they're not good, but they're just more reasonable, or shall I say, less insane. And they would try every now and then, maybe we should fact check this, right? And they would either be met with condemnation from management, or management would just axe whatever plans they had and not say anything to them. And that's apparently what happened in this instance. A new report depicts Bret Baier as an isolated figure at Fox News who was ignored when he tried to take the initiative to debunk lies about the 2020 election. NPR's brand new report on Baier focuses on his role as a straight newscaster for Fox and how that makes him a solitary character amongst the network's right-wing voices. The report puts Baier's work squarely at odds with his network colleagues who fueled conspiratorial claims about the 2020 election's corruption, and also those who have attempted to downplay the January 6th Capitol riot. Now, let me pause here for a second, because I actually think they're being a little bit too kind to Bret Baier. Because, look, if you sit him down and make him run through his political positions, he's not just an objective reporter. He's a conservative guy. He is. He's a conservative guy. But at least on this issue, you could say, and I think it's true and accurate, that he may be a conservative guy, but just the fact that he likes low taxes and deregulation and things of that nature does not mean that he's also okay with lying about the 2020 election. He wanted to tell the truth about the 2020 election. Namely, Biden won, Trump didn't, stop with the nonsense. So he's still a conservative guy, but he's a conservative guy who's willing to acknowledge reality on this particular issue. So I don't want them to be there. I think they go a little too far when they act like, oh, he's just an objective reporter. No, he's a conservative guy who is being fair, at least on this issue, right? Okay. NPR notes that that Baier frequently used his show, Special Report, to push back on claims made by Donald Trump and his supporters. However, the report states that Baier repeatedly sought to do an hour-long Sunday night special in order to address and disassemble the prominent claims about the election. Okay, so here's what they say. This is from the original report in NPR. Baier's proposed hour, described to NPR by 5 people with direct knowledge, never aired. Network executives never even gave Baier, their chief political anchor, a direct verdict on his pitch, they said. Through a spokesperson, Baier declined comment for the story. Fox declared Biden president-elect on November 7th, a term that Baier was first to utter on the network. Fox was the last network to affirm Biden's win publicly. Evidence that has surfaced show that network executives wanted other networks to go first after the scarring experience of the Arizona projection. So that means they called Arizona for Biden first, and they got tremendous backlash. So even though they knew Biden had won the election nationally, they said, let's wait for other networks to call it, and then we'll follow up after them. That's so pathetic, especially because they had just spent millions of dollars for their new data gathering process. And so they were actually the first to learn Biden really won. But instead of calling it and all their investment of millions of dollars paying off by them being first, they were like, no, we're afraid of the backlash. Let's wait for other networks and then we'll say it. It is the most cucked anybody has ever been in media ever. Baier initially raised the issue of the special in late November with colleagues and executives and continued to advocate it into early January. Baier stopped pushing for his proposed special within a few days of the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. By the time everything was moving forward, we were transitioning to covering Biden's first term, a Fox News executive said. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, it was past the point of litigating this point any further. The official called it a nascent idea that bubbled up and popped during an intense news period. Baier is one of the Fox hosts Dominion Voting Systems wants to call as a witness when their $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against the network goes to trial later this month. NPR's report notes that one of Dominion's lawyers paused her questioning of Baier months ago to praise his handling of the 2020 election, though it is likely Baier will be asked to testify about his suggestion that Fox should have retracted their early accurate projection that President Joe Biden would win the state of Arizona. The report also delved into how Baier's fact checks on election lies created friction with his fellow Fox hosts and the network's top brass. While Baier's colleagues were blasting Fox News straight reporters, Baier wanted to feature Eric Shawn's fact checking on Special Report. Look, on this very limited, narrow issue, credit to him. Credit to him. But like, here's what makes it extra evil here is that how are you supposed to handle this sort of misinformation and disinformation coming from conspiracy fringes and coming from Donald Trump's mouth that really like misleads people? How are you supposed to challenge that? Well, there are many people now who argue, well, just don't let this stuff get out there in the first place, right? It's this idea of censor it, ban it. And even like YouTube, for example, had taken this approach for a while. Other social media outlets have taken this approach. When Trump went on the Full Send podcast the Nelk Boys podcast, and he did the rigged election stuff, YouTube banned it because he did that. I covered Trump on that podcast, and they banned me covering him on that podcast because, again, in that podcast, he did election, lies, right? That's not the way to handle it. The way to actually handle it is what Bret Baier was trying to do, which is, look, okay, let's take all of your claims, no matter how deep into the weeds we're going here, let's go take all your claims, we're going to actually examine them, going to actually fact check them, and then we're going to do a rebuttal. And to Bret Baier's credit, that's what he tried to do. It's the responsible way that mature adults deal with falsehoods, especially in the political sphere. It's the right way to do it. So he tried to do it, and he was stopped. And it's all because Fox News management is terrified of the audience. They're totally audience captured. They deserve zero respect, and they're terrible at their jobs. Look, I'm in this business to one extent or another, so I know the way it works. You have to put first and foremost the truth. You have to do it. The truth, how you feel, speak your mind, let the chips fall where they may. They don't do that. They go like this. Where the wind's blowing among my audience, I must go in that direction immediately. Even if they are provably incorrect about something. Verifiably, I don't care. This came directly from Tucker was saying this exact stuff. He called Trump a demonic force. He basically said, Trump is terrible. I hate him with a burning passion. And then publicly, total opposite stance. It's like, man, we got to feed this slop to the audience. They just want to hear about this nonsense about rigged election. I guess we got to do what we got to do. And it happened with a bunch of them. Again, credit to Bret Baier on this one narrow issue because he was right. He was right. And by the way, look at the social cost of what he did. Now the opinion hosts don't get along with him as well, even though they know he's right. The fact he's willing to stick his neck out there and put the honor and integrity of what his job is supposed to be first, they can't abide that because they're all audience-captured sellouts. So anyway, it's amazing. All it takes, it's amazing to see the way the institutions work here and how they're guided by the whims of a conspiracy-infected base, right? And there are no leaders. They're all followers. Baier was the only leader, and even he, as soon as he came up against some opposition, he just didn't bring it up anymore. This could hurt them even more, too, in the lawsuit, because it's like, oh, wait, people were trying to correct the record, and you wouldn't let them. Well, you can make a case that makes you more liable for defamation, for libel, for slander, and maybe that'll end up being the case. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.